remember the last time. I literally can't remember the last time I set a pole for putting up my spinnaker.
Thank you.
So even when we're on a reach to the offset, I don't put a starboard pole up like we always used to do for years. That way we can get that chute up, get the main out, and get the boat sailing without a pole. And we have the option to jibe, or at least it's up and flying. And now we can set the pole. You don't have to have a pole to fly the chute. That's the point. And conversely, when we come into the leeward mark, we always take the pole down first and drop the chute when we're little, so we get that little bit of extra without the pole up, and then put the chute down. Not too aggressive, right? Because you do have to be careful when you take it down without the pole that the line doesn't go over the bow. That's the only thing. So it's really up to the skipper to keep tension, and we're going to show you. Keep tension on that leeward side. And she yells at me a lot of times to give her more ease, which let's demonstrate that. Right? So let's just go ahead. So let's just imagine we just went around the weather mark.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and like she's figuring out where John's sheets are, because on our boat they're down here, so she's looking for the sheets. But on John's boat, they're in this one there. So, and it would be normally in the turtle. I raise it. Stacy's pulling on that line.
I grabbed the jib to get the jib out of the way.
John, did you put a knot up there?
I did.
Yeah. So it doesn't go all the way up.
It needs to be adjusted.
And then as soon as it's up and flying, Stacy will hand me this thing, and I can fly it. And then she'll go ahead and set a pole. Let's go ahead and set a starboard pole.
And you hook the guy before you raise it?
Sorry?
You hook the guy before you raise
the
it?
starboard guy, we like to have it under the hook. Another thing we always do, we always put the spinnaker up before the first race, before we race. Why? Because my boat's named ADHD for a reason. All the time I tie the sheets in, I'll do something. You just fly it and you just feel more comfortable about it. We always put our chute up, make sure it's packed right. And when I raise it and she's pulling on this line, that's pulling the feet apart. So that helps prevent an hourglass where you get the figure eight.
You don't have to fight with the pole, because if you put your pole up first,
right,
and you're bringing your spinnaker around, you're coming over here and you just keep pushing it.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to pull the pole.
It's too much time to sit up here and try and fight with it.
It's been so long, I forgot that problem.
Yeah,
so that's
I
a little
don't
too
miss
low.
that
Where it is
problem.
pretty low, but in light air we kind of try and keep the clews even. That's really low right there. I don't think I did this here. Let's go ahead and we'll do a jibe just the way we do jibes.
May I ask one question?
Yep.
About the pole?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you've got two rings on your mast, which one should you use? Does it make a difference?
In the lighter stuff, we will use the lower ring.
And high?
And everything else, medium and up, we use the high ring.
Okay.
Taller. Yep. But in the older boats don't have two rings, but they have a track, so you can adjust it too.
I have another really minor consensus from the group. Jaws up or jaws down?
Down.
Oh, down. Let's see, Robert would tell me up, because that way the thing, less probability will fall out and you can jam it up on the mast. He does jaws up, but I tend to do jaws down.
Yeah, I think you always will. Most spinnakers don't even have an option. Like, see where the hook is on this spinnaker.
Well,
and the reason you want the jaws down generally is because the line is pulling up and it's pulling into the jaw. If you have it this way, it's gonna come out of there. It's gonna eventually pull. If the jaws aren't really positive, you could definitely lose your chute, especially in the windy stuff.
I like jaws.
But on big boats, they sometimes do that. But yeah, we put jaws down. Usually, is how we always do it.
Now, Ryan, do you fly the chute? Stacey, you fly the chute, right?
I do.
She does.
Okay.
We get it flying. She just at the pole,
and then
I hand it to her.
grab it, and then so Ryan pulls the board.
Yeah, I pull the board up. We complete the guy. Sometimes I'll do the guy. It depends on how much wind there is.
Ryan gets the lines all wrapped around the main.
Yeah, get all lines off. I'm more concerned about, she's flying it. What I'm trying to do is get the boat using my weight. I'll try and get the boat so it's, again, just like we're talking about upwind, where it's kind of tracking. So I'll raise the board all the way up like it is now, and then I'll let the board down to skeg position, which some of you, we talked about before, it's where the back of the centerboard is right here at the point of the lowest point on the hump. That's where I sail most of the time, is skeg position. But I do, if we come into waves, this is a big deal to me. In waves, when the boat starts rocking around, try this. You'll be amazed. You let your board down. I'll let it down 2/3 of the way, and the boat settles right down. If you don't do that, the boat starts hopping all over, and the chute it's hard to fly, especially in the lighter stuff. So I use my rudder centerboard all the time to stabilize. As soon as the boat settles down, I'll pull it back up again. But what was I going to say? So in the lighter stuff, again, Stacy's flying it, and my job is to try and look back and see if I can find a better where the wind might be coming from, you know. And also, I want to have that boat tracking, so I'll actually move my weight around. She's usually kind of fixed in one position, and I'll try and get the boat so that, again, I'm not using any rudder. In the lighter stuff, my weight's forward, and the heavier stuff, your weight back. But you're still trying to use as little. You should be able to sail the boat holding that tiller with 2 fingers. Because the more you're clenching onto that tiller and having to use the rudder to steer it, the more you're slowing the boat down with the rudder. It just all points to sail. You just want to try and get the boat to sail itself. You want to be like, the boat's doing its own thing and you're just a passenger. So should we do a jibe? Let's go through a jibe.
Yeah, I'm all out of
Because now this,
Here,
Sean,
hand in the line.
people do things differently, but the way we do jibes is, Stacey, well, so normally, well, it's confusing because the main would be out here, right?
Oh, right.
Normally, because it's the opposite side of the.
Yeah.
So, I'm getting ready to jibe now. We're going pretty much dead downwind, and I don't have to turn the boat much at all because we're going pretty straight downwind. But what I'll say, okay, Stace, let's go ahead and do a jibe. She'll put the new guy under.
in.
Okay. She'll
across.
boom across. She'll push the boom across.
Oh, do you want to grab the?
Yeah, it's the door to put it here.
Oh, there's
There
there.
it is. There it is. Boom across and the old guy out. So it's a 3-step thing. And I think, who did? I think Eric Bissell do I think he did a thing on YouTube. Anyway, so it's new guy under, boom across, old guy out. And then do the pole. And the cool thing about this is you can fly the chute with the pole on the wrong side. Absolutely
Oh,
fine.
we forgot about the
It's
too.
really up to the person steering the boat and that's me. It's up to me to keep the chute flying, and also, the jib. We forgot the jib. Yeah, we did forget to say the jib. So it's the new guy under, boom across, old guy out, and then jib across. And why is it so important to get the jib over to the other side? Does anybody know? It really is important. Yeah, yes, because if the jib is on this side and you don't pull it over to the other side, it will make it really hard to keep that chute full. And in fact, in the lighter stuff, so much so we drop the jib in the light stuff, so it's not even a problem. But in medium wind, you can leave the jib up absolutely fine. It won't hurt you as long as you make sure to get it over to the other side and cleat it, because it really will just disturb the spinnaker enough that it's kind of hard to keep. Because you should go out and practice when you're not racing. You just do jibe after jibe, and you should be able to bring that chute across back and forth without losing the chute.
So jib and the main are on the same side.
Yeah.
You said pull it over here.
Yeah.
So just to
And also, you shouldn't have to turn too much. I think something I see people, they worry too much about turning a lot. And if you're going dead downwind, you just need to turn a little bit. And as soon as that boom starts coming across, square it up again. You shouldn't have to turn the boat too much. In fact, when we did the clinic in South Carolina, I got on a couple boats and we showed people you don't have to turn the boat at all. You can be just tracking straight downwind and jibe back and forth. There's another thing to practice. So,
So just to reiterate, when you're jibing, you leave the pole up.
Yep.
Both guys are hooked.
No.
No.
Oh,
What during the moment?
let's do another
Yeah.
one. Okay. Let's do another one.
So
Okay,
this
for a
time we'll
moment.
do the
Yeah.
jib. We'll do the jib. All right. So.
Okay. So the main's here. Imagine the main's here. Jib's over on the side.
Main across.
Okay, she just put the new guy under,
New guy under.
the main
guy.
across, and think of it this way: as the
Main's
main goes
going
over, it's going to
across
push out
fast.
the other guy. That's how I always when I teach your
Okay,
crew.
then-
Think of it as a 3-step thing. It's
Jib
pushing out the
off.
other guy, and then
So
now
that
she
the
pulls
jib's
jib.
not in my way.
Okay, so as you jibe the main, you still got both guys hooked, and you don't release that
For that
until
moment.
after
You're right. You're absolutely right. They're hooked the way we do it.
Right.
Some people do a floating one. They uncleat both of them, and neither of them are hooked for a little while. Sean might do that. I don't know.
That's what
I do.
Amy Linton does that.
Yeah, some people do floating ones. I prefer this because I can do it in light air, and it's sure better and heavier. Because
It's for sure better than heavy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
heavier, you got
So
it.
you're not
What, when
bringing
you
the
let
jib
it
over
free flow?
until you release
You
the
got
guy.
it down. When you got
right.
the guys down.
Right.
did a
Yeah,
hold
so
up.
it's the 3 new guy under, boom across, old guy out, and now the jib.
Okay.
And then I urge you to just just not bring the pole around for a second. You can actually fly it on the wrong side just to see that there's no panic, because people I've seen a lot of times they're really concerned about getting the pole across. And you can fly it just fine with the pole on the wrong side. Take your time. She'll bring it over. Go ahead and bring the. You want to do one more? Let's do one more.
Okay.
Okay, so guy under. Here we go. I'm steering. So I'll steer the boat a little bit so that it's going to now turn that way. Boom across. Hold one out. And then I'm going to really try to fly it.
Jib. Oh, I would have
See how
taken
little,
the jib off already.
little it happens to the spinnaker. It really doesn't do much. But if the jib was in the way, it would have flashed it.
So when would you have taken the jib? What did you just say?
Before she did the pole. After the.
I would have. I kind of. I release it as I.
She released it.
I'm
when she
doing
did.
4 things here. I'm putting the new guy under, releasing the jib, and throwing the main, like sort of all at the same time.
Oh, you do the jib at the same time?
Well, I release it
Yeah, you release it? Okay, I didn't know that. I thought you
because
did
then I'm going to
after.
go over here, and I don't want to come back over here,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I want to stay over here and do all the stuff over here.
The key thing is that you've got the jib over before you worry about the pole, right? It's out of the way.
It's
'Cause
well, sometimes it's not over. It's just not. There's not tension on it, so that I can
Right.
move the pole. Because if there's tension on the jib, then you're going to have it.
That's
It's going to
true.
resist your
That's true.
your
Another good point.
your
If it's on the wrong side,
spinnaker
it's
pole.
going to script it.
So you do your work on the new windward side, whatever that's involved, right? So you
All do
release
is
the
set
guy.
No, on the new
You re-
side, you set the guy.
Here, well, should we go back again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one more time.
Yeah.
I never explain what I do. I just do.
Yeah. So this is
Okay,
first of all, let's
so-
just see if this is correctly set up. Let's just double check everything.
All right.
The main's over here. We're on port tack. The
We need a
guy
jib.
is in, right?
We
The
push
jib would
the
be
jib up.
over here normally, right?
Jib.
And the sheet, if we had some wind, it would be up in the air, flying. Okay. So we don't have any
All right.
wind at this moment. But now we're gonna do a jibe. So okay, go ahead,
Okay,
Stace.
so I'm
New guy under. And
Jib
I'll
off.
be turning the boat at that point. The boom comes across,
Boom across. Jib is
and then
off.
old guy out. And this is really important. You don't forget the old guy.
Old guy out.
Old guy out, and now is when she pulls the jib
Jib is
up.
still.
It's undone, but this is when you
I
pull it
haven't
over.
cleated it.
Okay, but doesn't it when you pull? I want you to pull it over.
It's
before the
luffing
pull.
now.
It kind of just goes over by itself.
It usually
Yeah.
does.
It's along for the ride. The key is
Sometimes it doesn't.
it's not cleated on the wrong side.
That is the
Right.
key
That's
thing.
right.
The key
Yeah.
thing is to not cleat it on.
I guess when it's
Actually, you know
really
what?
windy,
You're right.
I do cleat it a little bit so that it doesn't furl around the forestay.
You really don't want to have it uncleated in heavy wind on both cleats, because it really will do what she just said. And you got to do it wrong a couple times, and then you'll never forget again. Because man, that jib can curl around the forestay to the point where
Yeah.
you can't get it off. You got to go up there and you got to kind of really script your jib to get
Oh,
it
yeah.
off. Too. Not just your jib. All right, so let's talk about the douse, because this is something that
Hey Ryan,
is-
before you douse,
yeah.
can you do a 3-knot pull on the headstay jibe?
A pole on the head. Oh, you mean going around a jibe mark?
No. There's 3 knots of breeze.
Okay.
How far forward is the pull?
If it's 3 knots of breeze,
2 knots of breeze.
2 knots of breeze.
1.5.
Well, first of all, the jib's down.
Jib's down.
Or
Talk
I
about
might not
the
even have
pull.
a shoot up if it's that
Exactly.
level.
Okay.
I might not be able to fly
All right,
the
the
chute.
lightest
If I have enough to fly the chute, I've got the jib down,
jib down pulls kind of pretty far forward.
and I've got the boat heeling to leeward now.
Pole's way down.
Because if I don't have the boat heeling to leeward, the main boom's going to jibe over
Right.
by its weight. Yeah, the pole's low,
Yeah.
and I hate jibing that light stuff because it's just
Yeah, it's
whatever
like
speed
how,
you
how
have,
big is the turn? It's like
It's a pretty big. It's a bigger turn in those conditions because we're sailing pretty hot angles. The only way to keep the boat moving, like 3 or 4 knots, is to keep sailing pretty high angle. So you really have to time, like when we shift our weight, and it takes a lot of practice. It's really hard to keep the chute full on the light stuff, man. It just
Okay.
is because you do have to turn a lot more
Yeah.
the lighter stuff. But the douse I want to talk about because I was raised, and a lot of people where you gather the feet of the spinnaker together and then take it down. And actually, I don't know why this is something that people are taught because it's just absolutely wrong. Like you should never gather the feet of the spinnaker, and if you were on a big boat and tried to do that, you learn really the hard way because what you're doing gathering, you're creating a balloon, and it wants to twist, and you're fighting it, and you're also wasting time that you could be dropping the spinnaker. So what I want to do is I want to demonstrate zero gathering of the feet and how we can drop the chute with zero gathering of the feet. So let's go ahead and do that, Stace, okay?
Should we take the pole down?
Yeah, let's take the pull down. We're coming into the little mark. Take the pull down. We take it down really early a lot of times because I can still fly this. As long as we're sailing pretty deep, I can still, excuse me, not too deep. If I'm sailing really deep, I really need the pull. But, you know, if we're on a super dead run, I'll try to wait to take the pull down.
And you leave the guy
Because when you
hooked.
do take it. What's
You
that?
leave the guy hooked.
Guys, still hooked. And you guys should try that too. You can go out there.
He should be still flying it.
We
Like,
with just
still
fly
be
without a
full.
pole sometimes. You don't need a pole to fly the chute. You really don't. You do need a guy under the hook though, especially if you don't have a pole.
Or both.
So we're coming into we're getting close enough that we want to drop it. And I'm just going to drop it. Ready? And this is not my boat. So let's see how fast John. So this is take up wheel even. Go ahead and take it down.
I have no.
I'm giving her no foot
You're
right
giving
now.
me no tension.
I wanted to show them that you don't need to do any foot. And now she can pull the foot in afterwards.
But she's stuffing the foot.
See, I don't like ripping it across the full
Right,
stack.
right.
Well, it
You should have
wouldn't
it taped really
normally,
well and be gentle with it. Yeah, have your force rate set. I'm exaggerating it, but the point is you can take it down with a leech and have the, and by, what we do is more like a 70% down, 30% on the foot, like this. So that what's happening is the foot's coming in late, and when you launch it, the foot's going to go out easier, and early it's on top, and you're much less likely to hourglass, because the feet are kind of apart when you do this, and it won't get twisted. Because if you gather the feet and drop it, when you're bringing down that balloon, it's gonna do a couple swings, and it's likely to twist on its way in. So when you relaunch it, when I was younger, we used to get hourglasses all the time, and I never could figure out why, and it was probably for this very reason. And I can't remember the last time. Stace, at least you'll lie, right? We haven't had an hourglass in a long time.
We never. I shouldn't even say that.
So.
Just pull the lead.
Till tomorrow.
So we were exaggerating here. We do more like we do. She does pull the foot, and she yells at me a lot because I'm so paranoid about. Because it's my job to make sure that because we take the pull down first, it's my job to make sure there's tension on this line.
Right.
Because if there's no tension on this line, what's going to happen? No, something worse is going to happen.
Go under the
It's
boat.
gonna go under the boat.
It's
Yeah.
very possible that it's going to go under the bow. And once that line comes under the bow of the boat, there's only one way to fix it, and that's a pain in the butt. You got to pull the spinnaker in, you got to untie the clue,
There's fighting.
re-lead it.
All that.
Yeah.
So she's a lot of times telling me, give me some foot, and also so I'm keeping a lot of tension on it, and sometimes I forget.
See that?
Yeah.
So communication is also key. I think.
So the main point is though, you start stuffing from this clue on this side immediately.
Start stuffing immediately,
Yeah.
and she kind of, you see how she's kind of slamming on the deck and into the turtle. Instead of, I had a friend crew for me in Saratoga, and he was trying to gather it, and he was also gathering in front. You need to be trying to get into the turtle, and it doesn't have to be a fire drill. It should be a fairly smooth thing to do. I really recommend getting a take-up reel like John has here. If you don't have one, they're really nice because you can get it from Harry. It's really just like what is this, like a clothesline take-up reel, right? And it keeps that halyard up off the ground and clean, and it's just much neater.
Now in a big blow, you still have to keep a little tension on that halyard.
Sorry?
When it's really blowing, you still need to keep a little tension on that
On my
halyard.
boat, when I'm dropping it, I do sometimes slow it down a little bit. If it's coming down a little too fast, I'll just put a little tension on the halyard.
On top or
So
below?
yeah, what's that?
Above the blocker? Above the
I'll just
cleat or-
above it. I'll uncleat it, and I'll just in the very beginning, because if you uncleat it and let it go, it might just come
In the
super
water.
fast. But
And
it
then
shouldn't
you
go
had
in the
to
water
make-
if
you
she's
just
going
do
into the
this?
close. I can really with Stacy, I can
There
pretty
we
much
go.
uncleat it and let it go. She's really good at keeping it into the turtle, letting it fall into the turtle, because she's not trying to gather the feet again. I think if you're really concerned with gathering the feet, it's one of the downfalls of, and that's when you're gathering the feet, the belly of the spinnaker is going to be falling into the water.
Yeah, that's the way I was kind of taught to do it, and
Right.
my crews have big trouble with it because the time she tries to get the foot gathered in, the spinnaker's blowing out. you
Right,
know?
the spinnaker's going down into the.
Right.
We got away from that foot business when you showed. I learned it from you 2-3 years ago on the lawn over there, and never gone back. I mean, it's not even a debate.
Right.
It just comes down. The other bonus is Stacy demonstrated she just took the luff down, luff, and it came right down. And then that corner came down, so the head came down and that other corner came down. That's exactly how you're going to set it.
Exactly.
If you were to pre-feed it on the offset leg, if you're one of those,
Right.
Those corners are where you want them,
Right.
as opposed to buried in there.
Right.
Yeah, they're
So-
right here. Here's
You
your.
do want to preset it. Yep.
And if you crank that right side
You can
line,
actually
it'll
pull
pop
the
right out of there. It's just the
Yeah,
way
you can,
want it.
and I'd rather have someone do that than get the pole set. You could start pulling the clue of the spinnaker up to get ready for your raise.
Yeah.
Or do you guys ever set a pole?
You know what? If the boat's moving at maximum speed and the main and jib look great and the board's up halfway and like, okay, we got nothing better to do, sure.
And you know it's a bear away.
Sure. Yeah, and I know
You're
it's a
on-
bear away.
And it's an
yeah.
offset leg. Okay.
Yeah.
Then why not?
But
yeah.
if the boat can go a little faster on the offset, do that instead of dicking around with the spinnaker.
Right.
Because you get real slow on the offset if you get distracted.
Yeah, at the Wife Husbands, interestingly, they filmed some stuff and they showed that Brian Hayes did a good job. He did some filming and actually showed the boats made big gains and losses on the offset, that short little offset leg. Because if you were concentrating on your boat speed and not setting a pole, and you were concentrating more on
Playing
where
the
your sails
jib.
were and playing the jib and having the sail set right, man, you can make up 2 boat lengths real fast.
Just by getting
Or
your
lose
weight
them
back and
fast.
planing or getting rid of the helm with board up or whatever. But I will say that if it's a bit of a bear away, broad, reachy downwind leg because of a big shift or something, that pull up's kind of nice because then you can get the spinnaker flying. Now, if it's a dive down low, get it up. I love that method. You showed me that. Never gone away from it. It's,
Right.
it's a winner.
Yeah, that's true. If we
90% of the time.
if we sail triangles like we used to, then you really do have to set the pole.
Yeah.
But we
That-
that's
that
the
might
other
be a
reason.
nice
We
thing,
don't do
but-
we don't. You guys don't do triangles here, right? So.
But it would have to be a
Every
big old
regatta.
wind shift or something, a big left.
Every regatta we do them.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I just want you to think about that every night.
To worry about it.
So when you're dousing, you just grab them for the leech, or you grab them for the middle of the sail? What are you grabbing?
The leech.
So you
And
just,
and the middle.
Let's do it again real quick.
I'm
Let's just do it
mostly-
again. Let's do another one. So let's raise it up. So I'm raising it. She's gonna pull the feet out. And then I'm gonna fly it. She's gonna get the pole set, and now she's dropped the pole. So we're we're coming downwind now, and I'm gonna drop it. So I'll say, okay, Stacy, ready?
Yeah.
Ready to go? Okay.
Yeah.
So uncleat it. Just take it down. And I have it. She's barely pulling on the foot.
My hand is in here,
Alright.
and I'm pulling down from here, and
And I'm keeping up. I gotta keep tension on this though.
And if
But here,
this
helping
isn't
her on the
going
foot,
anywhere.
which is nice.
No, the foot isn't moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh?
It isn't moving.
no, it's not,
Not
gonna
much.
fall in the water.
But you brought the middle down.
Right.
and then that's what you pull in last.
What we're avoiding is slack on this line too much, so if you go under the bow. Some people tried. Jeff Linton had this little. He had like a little keeper thing sticking out of his valve until they decided that wasn't legal. But it was a kind of a neat idea. It was to prevent that line from falling under the bow. I don't know why they made it. Well, I guess then you got this little narwhal thing that you might run into other people. They might get injured. Did you know that? It was just a little thing sticking off the bow.
No.
It was to prevent that. So it even happens to Jeff Linton. He even apparently gets his spinnaker sheet.
I think those tips you just gave us, some of the most important things I've ever learned in the Scott were that, and I learned it from you 2-3 years ago. The set, don't worry about the pull, just get it up, and then the douse. It's a big deal.
So if it's windy, do you do jibe sets? Or do you haul it up to leeward?
So Carol's asking, do we? Actually, I'm wondering where you're saying. Do we set it?
So
I'm not sure what
if you jibe first, which means you be hauling up on windward,
windward
where
side.
it can blow in.
Yeah, never. Almost never. Just like Sean, that's the other reason we get the chute up, and then I'll jibe because I do not want to do jibe. I don't want to be pulling it up on the windward side.
In the beginning, that happened a few times, and I was like, we're not doing that.
I mean, sometimes we have to because if when you doused it, maybe it's on the wrong side. Like if for some reason we came to leeward market and we had to drop it on this side of the boat, let's say it was really windy. I do like to take the chute down on the port side of the boat so that we can avoid having, because if it's on the starboard side, it is, sometimes you will have to do a jibe set, because you come around the weather mark and you have to raise it, or pull it around the forestay.
Just make sure you're around first.
Yeah, make sure you're sailing deep,
Yeah.
but try to avoid that. But if it's windy, you also want to take it down to windward, right? I mean, you almost never want to take it down to the leeward side where your weight is on the wrong side of the boat. Does everybody understand what I'm saying with that? Yeah. So when it's really windy, we want to have the boom, we want to be taking that spinnaker down on the side where the boom isn't. So it's the windward side of the boat. Because and sometimes we do have to take it down the leeward side. If we're on the wrong jibe coming in, I prefer not to, but sometimes she has to. It's much harder because you've got to pull the spinnaker down. You got the boom over here and the vang in your way, and your worst of all, your weight's down. So in heavy air, you don't want your weight on the leeward side, right? You want to have it more balanced, flat.
Now, could you just take the pole down, do a quick little jibe, and then pull it in? So you don't have to take it down?
Oh yeah, all the time we take the pole down. That's a really good question. We'll take the pole down and set it, and then do a jibe all the time down near the leeward mark, and then sail for a few extra boat lengths on the other jibe, and then drop it to windward. Yeah, that would be ideal. So I do like to be on port jibe coming to leeward mark if I can manage it. So, but you can't always manage it because we're boats and we're.
But if it's that windy, orderly and early is better than a disaster.
Yeah, be conservative when it's really windy. Also, if it's a lot of boats coming to a leeward mark together, which we might see here, we saw that at the Glow. I like to get my shoot down real early with that situation sometimes, because if you come in there and you're wedged in between a bunch of boats, you have no options. It's really hard to slow down. You get stuck. Whereas if you slow down a little bit, there might be an opening at the leeward mark. That's kind of an unusual situation, but sometimes you want to get the shoot down early.
Well, a lot of that's me. I actually get really nervous, and I always want to take it down early because I want to make sure that it is in and I can like get the jib in around the mark, and if the spinnaker goes over the side of the boat, your race is over.
Yeah, and if it's windy, you can be going a lot faster than you think, and then suddenly, uh-oh, I've got that spinnaker up still.
Or if it's I get really if it's this kind of thing and we're going upwind and I'm like, oh my, all I can think about is that thing's coming out and our race is over.
Yeah.
So
and believe me, she lets me know.
I'm probably too cautious, maybe even.
And you're taking care of the jib before the board. So the the spinnaker goes up, then the board goes up, and then the spinnaker comes down, and then the board comes down.
Yeah, I don't worry about the board as much as a lot of people really think it's super important to get the board up. I really think it's super important to get the spinnaker flying.
Get moving.
Get the boat moving, and you can go pretty fast with the board down, actually, as long as you're doing the other stuff right, because it's just a prioritizing thing. Having said that, in windy conditions, you really got to get the board up. Because in windy conditions, the board, the boat wants to kind of trip on it, and the boat, you'd rather have it up most of the way in the windy stuff because the boat is more, it'll slide a little bit instead of trying roach. And conversely, when you come into leeward mark, don't drop it too early. If it's really puffy and stuff, don't drop it too early, because if a big puff hits you, your board's down all the way. What's going to happen if you get turned sideways a little bit? It's kind of bad news. You're going to broach. So
or hit the mark.
Hit the mark, yeah.
Or capsize.
Capsize. Yep.
Never.
In the Scott, fortunately, you got to do 3 things really wrong at the same. It's really difficult to capsize these boats. But having said that,
true, Sean?
Oh, I disagree.
Wow, we must be really get the numbers.
Sean can do 2 things really bad and still capsize.
But I've got the skill to do it.
Well, if you're really aggressive, so you were aggressive, like dropping the board at the. Tell us when you
We offset mark, got the shoot up, board was down, it filled, we were on a reach, and over we went.
Game over, yeah.
So it's a extremely dumb
Aggressive.
situation,
Yeah, super
avoidable.
aggressive. Yeah, be more conservative when it's windy. Right?
For the record, we got it back up and beat one boat.
Yay!
I've seen Harry. He'll get a lead in heavy wind, and I put a shoot up for half a leg. He did that at Deep Creek this year. That wasn't this year. But anyway, being conservative sometimes is smart in the really windy stuff, right? And other people have talked about, do you ever have both guys in? Somebody was telling
Yes.
us in the
We've
really
done
windy
that, so
stuff.
that if it's way up there, I don't know, a couple of fall 48s ago, I don't know, 2 or 3 blowing like crazy, and yeah, I mean, you don't have to have it totally choked, but it just kept
Both
it
guys.
more centered,
Right.
you know, in
Kept
the
the
boat,
crews
and some of that it's being conservative to not do the stupid thing. And you know, your boat's still going like crazy, so it depends
Right.
what the wind is, what your skill and comfort level
Yeah,
is.
I think Peter Beam was the one who talked about that.
Yeah.
once here, but
Is the pole up or not?
No, I don't think the pole was.
you didn't even use a pole.
We may have.
We would
I
do
don't know
that
if we just adjusted
anytime
it
the
down,
breeze
but-
was up on Peter's boat. I crewed for
You-
Peter
you
for
crewed
years.
For Peter,
but
yeah, you had both guys in, and it was fine.
Yeah.
And the boat, the spinnaker's a little more tame. It's a little smaller.
With the
Those are-
pole up.
You know, I think of that now. I don't think I've ever, still haven't tried it yet. It's the kind of thing you gotta practice it to think of it.
Yeah, because there was a fall 48 where
Makes a lot
a
of
whole bunch of
sense.
people didn't go out. You know, like Harry and then Peter, and
And me.
there were a number of people who didn't. And
go out
I know
there.
we said, okay, so we, had both in.
You mean the
to keep
one
it
where the
choked
forecast had been all week that it was going to be 40 to 60 knots by the end of the day, and then it was.
what's wrong with that?
God. That was
Yeah, I
scary.
guess
That
there's
was
more
great.
planing
I
on
felt
my
bad
boat.
watching those. Anyway, we're not going to see that this weekend. We're going to see.
Oh,
the
you felt
opposite.
really bad watching all those sails get destroyed.
Yeah. No, actually, I did, because there was a couple that were like really destroyed. Like they were being pulled upwind with their jib. Like they weren't even in the boat; they were swamped. Anyway, that's a nightmare story.
That's extreme.
Let's let that one go.
Yeah.
That was a unfortunate. So what else do you guys want to talk about? We've got to have any more questions on anything?
We have one question.
Yeah.
Now, if you're sailing downwind and you've got your main out, should you still try to have that top batten parallel with the boom?
I actually look up. I'm really glad you asked that question, because I do look up at the top of my main all the time downwind, and what I'm looking for is how much twist is in it. And when I say twist, I mean how more twist is when that top is opened up more.
Right.
And when we sail deep, like what Sean was saying, when we sail really deep by the lee, I sail a lot of times if there's over 7 knots, I will sail by the lee a lot. So the wind is coming from the same side as the boom, right? The wind is coming from the same side of the boat as that the boom is on, and you've got to have that boom out all the way to the shroud, and you have to make sure the vang is off.
So you
Not completely off, but it's out enough that the top is opened up and twisted. So that keeps the main out, because if you put the vang on too much, it'll pull the leech. What's it going to do? It's going to pull down on the leech, tighten it, and the boom's going to try to come into the boat.
So the answer is you don't want.
So- So what do I look for? So downwind, I don't want to have a ton of twist, and I don't want to have it closed. So I a lot of times I am sailing with the boom all the way at the shroud, and the top batten's pretty much parallel with the boom. Most
Maybe out a little.
we're out, like if we're by the lee.
And that's a case where the tuning guides.
So the
which
vang is
Brian
very
really-
important downwind.
That's where that top telltale